can do this all day. I can do this all day. I can do this all day. I can do this all day. Yeah, I know.
Carbon scoring here. Looks like you boys have seen a lot of action.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Carbon Scoring, your clubhouse where action figures and comic history come together. This isn't your typical top 10 list. We're going to rank the 10 greatest Captain America action figures, taking into account the historical significance each figure represents. If you're into our attempts at bringing wit and intelligence to the characters we all love, give us a like and hit subscribe so that we can keep growing the channel. Now let's hit the list and reveal the top 10 figures of the Sentinel of Liberty, the Star-Spangled Man, Captain America. Number 10 starts us right at the beginning, with the first appearance Captain America by Hasbro. Joe Simon and Jack Kirby were Cap's co-creators, and in December of 1940 they launched the first issue of Captain America for Timely Comics, which would later become Marvel. This was a full year before the bombing of Pearl Harbor brought the US into the war. It was a smash success, selling over 1 million copies. But he wasn't the first patriotic hero in print. Almost a full year earlier, MLJ Comics, which would go on to become Archie Comics, produced the first patriotic-themed superhero with The Shield in Pep Comics #1. MLJ wasn't too happy with Simon and Kirby, or their success, and quickly threatened to sue, arguing Cap's shield was a straight knockoff of The Shield's costume. And, I mean, they're right. How could you possibly argue this? So they didn't. And by the second issue, Cap was sporting his now famous circular shield. But the story didn't end there. The comics industry of the 1940s was exceedingly cutthroat, but also close-knit. It was a pretty small fraternity, with owners and publishers controlling all the profits, and creators frequently switching sides trying to eke out a meager living. The guys from MLJ told Simon and Kirby that Timely was cheating them out of the royalties they were promised for Captain America, one of the most popular books at the time. So they bolted for greener pastures at National Comics, now DC, going from a pay rate of $75 a week to $500. Simon and Kirby only lasted 10 issues on Captain America, but it was enough to cement the character as an icon. Number 9 is Ultimate Captain America. Writer Mark Millar and artist Brian Hitch were given the task of updating the Avengers for a new century in 2002's The Ultimates. They planned to freshen up the franchise with modern costumes and contemporary dialogue. And then 9/11 happened. The world had entered a terrifying new status quo, and Miller and Hitch remade the Avengers as a metahuman SEAL Team 6, a unit created by the US government to protect American blood and soil at all cost. The Ultimates became a critical examination of the military implications of superheroes existing in a world that worships power and celebrity. The undoubted star of the book was Ultimate Captain America, a scowling, bullying, self-righteous, America-first warrior who longed for the moral binaries and clear-cut masculinity of the Second World War. In the Ultimate's defining moment, the villain tells Cap to surrender, and he replies, "Surrender? Surrender? You think this letter on my head stands for France?" In other words, this Cap was a personification of the Bush-era American self-image. As you might expect, the subversion and satire in the series was lost on many, including me when I was reading it in the early 2000s. The character was meant to be an indictment of the toxic post-9/11 American exceptionalism, but instead he became beloved as the macho American ideal. Miller himself was quoted as saying, quote, "People would say, I joined the army after reading The Ultimates because I wanted to make a difference in the Middle East. And I was like, well, I kind of meant the opposite of that." End quote. Artistically, The Ultimates was the template which the Marvel Cinematic Universe was built upon. But upon closer examination, it's a story of heroes that reject heroism. Alright, let's get back to the roaring 60s and having some fun with Captain Action's Captain America figure. Marvel Comics burst onto the scene with Fantastic Four #1 in 1961, and by March of 1964, Captain America joined the Silver Age of comics when he came out of the ice in Avengers issue 4. Marvel's characters were on fire, and licensing deals were everywhere. including animated cartoons.
When Captain America throws his mighty shield, all those who chose to oppose his shield must yield. If he's led to a fight and a duel is due, then the red and the white and the blue will come through when Captain America throws his mighty shield.
That was the ridiculously awesome theme to Cap's 1966 cartoon. Big props to YouTuber Sid T for that remastered clip. But 1966 also brought about our first true action figure of Cap. Captain Action was the Ideal Toy Company's answer to G.I. Joe. He was also a 12-inch figure who could change into different costumes, but instead of military branches, Captain Action became popular sci-fi and comic characters, including Captain America. Cap's costume came with just what you would expect, a fairly accurate mask and suit, and his shield, as well as a red, white, and blue ray gun and rifle. You gotta love it. This sweet 60s superhero is swinging with nostalgia in the mighty Marvel manner. Coming in at number 7 is Cap Wolf. And before you ask, yes, this is canon. Mark Gruenwald was a beloved writer and editor at Marvel starting in the late 70s, and he was a virtual encyclopedia of comics history. No, I'm serious, he knew everything. He was the main writer and editor for the official handbook of the Marvel Universe. In addition to being Marvel's keeper of continuity, he was a notorious practical joker, and incredibly loyal to the books he worked on, none more so than Captain America. Gruenwald wrote Cap for 10 years, from issue 307 in July of 85 to issue 443 in September of 95. Included were some of the most significant Cap stories ever, as we'll see as we go through this list. But perhaps most memorable was the story of Cap Wolf. Running from issues 402 to 408, the saga of the Cap Wolf included every wolf-type hero in the Marvel Universe, including Feral, Wolvesbane, Werewolf by Night, Man-Wolf, and Wolverine. Look, man, sometimes comic books are just meant to be fun. I can imagine Gru sitting around the Marvel bullpen joking with the guys when somebody says, "I bet you can't create a Cap story revolving around werewolves," and Gru says, "You wanna bet?" Hasbro included this sculpt as an alternate head with the regular Cap figure from 2016's Onslaught Build-A-Figure wave. It was a cool nod to Cap's history, and most would argue it's the best part of that figure. Secret Wars Cap comes in at number 6. I clearly have a soft spot for the Secret Wars line from Mattel, which premiered in 1984, as both Wolverine and Spider-Man's figures made their respective top 10 lists as well. Certainly, there's some childhood nostalgia at play here.
Secret Wars.
Marvel supervillains are coming.
Secret Wars.
Can the Marvel superheroes stop them?
Marvel supervillains and superheroes figures each sold separately. Here, Doctor Doom and the Doom Platoon, Magneto, Dr. Octopus. There, Captain America and the Champions of Freedom, Spider-Man and Wolverine.
Secret Wars. The secret's out.
Each of the figures in the line came with a shield containing lenticular inserts because, well, I have no explanation for this. Thankfully, the villain shields were square and the heroes round, so that the only figure this even made the tiniest bit of sense for came with a proper accessory. Perhaps it was the comic that shaped my view of this figure. All of Marvel's greatest heroes were assembled in one place, and Captain America was the undoubted unanimous leader. We've spent a bunch of time digging deep into the history behind these figures. I love doing that, because without the emotional attachments, without the memories these figures conjure up, they're just mass-produced pieces of plastic. So if you like learning more about the history and impact of Captain America, you're in luck, because there's plenty more where that came from. But as we hit the halfway point on our countdown, let's just sit back and enjoy an incredible action figure, the 2006 Captain America from Toy Biz's Face Off line. The Face Off figures were 2-packs featuring a hero and their greatest nemesis. In Cap's case, it was the Red Skull, of course. Plus, each 2-pack came with a variant, where the hero came unmasked, and that one included Hydra's Baron Strucker. These figures were released late in 2006, and were among the final figures produced by Toy Biz before the Marvel license switched over to toy giant Hasbro at the start of 2007. Toy Biz created the Marvel Legends line in 2002. They shepherded the idea of combining detailed sculpts with advanced articulation. And while there were some missteps along the way, these final Toy Biz figures were the pinnacle of the line, the perfect combination of sculpt and play value. In the number 4 spot is the World War II Cap from the first Avenger. Steve Rogers was a child of the Depression who represents the ideal of the greatest generation. He was a symbol, designed by 2 Jewish men at the height of the Nazi atrocities against their people. Remember, Cap appeared in print socking Hitler a full year before Pearl Harbor. In a 2011 interview, then 97-year-old Joe Simon said, "Kirby and I both read the newspapers. We knew what was going on over in Europe. World events gave us the perfect comic book villain, Adolf Hitler, with his ranting, goose-stepping, and ridiculous mustache. So we decided to create the perfect hero who would be his foil. I did that first sketch of Captain America, and Jack and I did the entire first issue before showing it to Martin Goodman at Timely Comics. He loved it immediately. But when Captain America came out, America wasn't yet in the war, so the American Nazis weren't happy with what we did to their beloved Fuhrer. We had a couple of personal encounters with the Bund, an American Nazi group, but that didn't stop us. If anything, it added fuel to the fire." The biggest knock I hear on the first Avenger is that it was too sentimental. I couldn't disagree more. I thought it set the perfect tone to establish Steve Rogers as Captain America. Mark Grunwald's greatest story was the saga of The Captain, running from issue 332 to its climax in issue 350. Steve Rogers is summoned before a presidential commission and informed that, under the terms of his service contract with the U.S. Army during World War II, he is obligated to serve in an official capacity, and that the uniform, shield, and identity of Captain America are property of the U.S. government. Steve fears that working for the government may compromise his personal ideals. His loyalties lie with the American dream, not with the men in charge. So he hands over his shield and his identity. And the commission goes about searching for a new Captain America. They thought they found their man in John Walker, formerly known as Super Patriot. He was malleable, but also unstable and aggressive. After terrorists kidnapped and murdered his parents, he completely lost it, going on a murderous rampage and tarnishing the name of Captain America forever. Meanwhile, Steve is off doing his Jeremiah Johnson thing. Yeah, that's right. D-Man, Falcon, and Nomad found him and convinced him that the country still needed him. So he donned the costume of the Captain and got back in the game. The Captain costume was loaded with symbolism, from the predominantly black color scheme to the black star over Cap's chest. It represented his disillusionment with the system. Everything came to a head in the now classic 350th issue of Captain America. The villain behind the entire scheme was revealed to be the Red Skull, because of course it was. This set up the final battle between John Walker and Steve Rogers, with the one true Cap coming out victorious. Mark Grunwald's Captain America always symbolized justice, humility, and perseverance. This was published during a period in comics where dark and gritty was the popular thing. Grunwald showed us that there was still a need for real heroes. The Mount Rushmore of Captain America artists includes Jack Kirby, Mike Zeck, and John Byrne. The 4th spot belongs to John Cassaday. If I were an artist drawing Captain America after John Cassaday, I would probably hate the guy. He drew every scale of chainmail, every stitch and seam in his costume. That is what I see when I look at the Hasbro 80th Anniversary Captain America figure. While this is meant to be a classic Cap and not artist specific, I can't help but feel the Cassaday influences. This figure does an excellent job of balancing the realism of what Cap's costume would actually look like without abandoning the comic styling, which is exactly how I would describe Cassaday's art. This is a truly great figure. Almost the best Cap ever. When you're talking about a character whose appeal is based largely in sentimentality, you knew this was going to take the top spot. The first ever Marvel Legends figure, Toy Biz's 2002 Captain America. I mentioned the art of Mike Zeck and John Byrne, and no other Cap manages to capture the style of these two artistic giants the way this figure does. Particularly the head sculpt. We've seen angry Cap, stern Cap, yelling Cap, but this is the leadership Cap that I grew up with. This is the Captain America I can hear saying these words from Amazing Spider-Man issue 537. Doesn't matter what the press says. Doesn't matter what the politicians or the mobs say. Doesn't matter if the whole country decides that something wrong is something right. This nation was founded on one principle above all else. The requirement that we stand up for what we believe, no matter the odds or the consequences. When the mob and the press and the whole world tell you to move, your job is to plant yourself like a tree beside the river of truth and tell the whole world, no, you move. There you have it, the top 10 Captain American action figures of all time. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and join us next time at Carbon Scoring.